Hi folks, so the title of this video, October Surprise, is slightly deceptive because October Surprise is a term that is used in the United States as something that is thrown as a surprise or a surprising development related to the election, which is on Monday, November the 3rd. Now, we may still have a delayed October surprise. Given the current parties at play, I don't think any of us puts right now, especially over the weekend as we head to November the 3rd, and frankly, even beyond it, I don't think that we would be surprised to really see. We'd be surprised, how do I want to put this? I don't think we'd be surprised to see surprises thrown into the political arena that could impact the result of the election or the result of the election. Yeah, I'm going to do a separate video on the election and we'll look at it. But the October surprise is still relevant, and it's relevant because it's nice to be able to do a video after a while, actually, that starts to turn the tide in a more positive direction. It's gradual. It's gradual. The last few videos, and indeed the astrology of the time, and I will warn you that while we are starting to see videos and astrological shifts that are moving towards the positive, the energy for the rest of the year, but especially till the middle of November, remains gnarly, actually becomes even more intense. I've said that in many respects this is the hardest part of 2020, and that makes sense. We're seeing COVID numbers rise globally again. We have the election on November the 3rd. No matter what the outcome, we don't expect it to be peaceful till, we expect someone to contest, someone to protest. No matter which way things go, there's going to be a certain amount of angst. It's a very loaded election. It's a very strongly felt election. Bringing this video back to the personal sphere, which is really what these videos are about. What does the astrology say about what is going on in my life? This full moon in Taurus, tomorrow morning, Pacific time, early morning, is conjunct Uranus. And by conjunct, I mean practically on top of Uranus. Now, it's not really on top of Uranus. There's a massive space or distance between the moon and Uranus, but from where we sit, the moon and Uranus are pretty much at the same degree, and not only at the same degree, practically at the same minute. Uranus is a planet that is associated with what I will call a typical October surprise, a lightning bolt development. And this concept of lightning bolt with Uranus is thrown about a lot in astrological discourse and conversation and writing. I find that this idea of a lightning bolt is in fact a distillation of a much longer set of energies. Keep in mind that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are the outer planets as far as we are concerned. By the time we get to Jupiter, Jupiter spends about 13 months in each sign, 12 to 13 months in each sign, and therefore each house. Saturn spends about 2.5 years. The further we go out, the longer the planet takes. By the time we come to Uranus, we're really talking about a planet that takes somewhere between 6 to 8 to 9, 5 to 9 years to go through a certain part of the chart. So much for a lightning bolt, But it's not so much, I think Uranus is my favorite planet. And it's a planet of liberation and epiphany, and they often come hand in hand. And it's a planet that liberates you from a certain set of constraints. And with this particular full moon, it's a normal full moon, folks. It's not an eclipse. So we have a full moon every 28 days. So what we should expect with this full moon, the larger set of full moon energies that we're experiencing are things that started around September the 30th and are going to grow towards the November 30th eclipse. So we are in the shadow of the November 30th lunar eclipse in Gemini as far as I'm concerned. But this particular full moon in Taurus, a normal full moon, so a normal culmination and bubbling up and intensification of energies that we get every 28 days. For some people this can be an emotional meltdown, for some people it can be sort of a cathartic expression of something, for some people it can be tears, for some people it can be offers, contracts coming to culmination, being pushed into the limelight in some way, something being revealed, the full disk of the moon is revealed, an intensification of energies over the past 2 weeks after the new moon in Libra. And there's something very much about this particular full moon that the sign of Scorpio, where the sun is right now, is very much the sign of how we're all conjoined together emotionally, financially. And the sign of Taurus is fundamentally a sign of independence, financial independence, emotional independence. At the same time, Taurus is certainly preoccupied with caring and nurturing in an intensely kind of feminine Venusian sense of preserving what is around, appreciating nature, appreciating abundance, appreciating bounty, appreciating good food, appreciating nurture, appreciating and taking care of things that belong to you and enable you to have a happy and fulfilled life, and those that you love to have a happy and fulfilled life. But the emphasis is on you and what you do in order to bring in what you need and sustain and manage and preserve what you need to enjoy life and sustain life financially, and also in terms of what one could call sensual pleasures. But that includes things like eating and drinking and enjoying life in a certain sense, but especially nature. And the moon is happy in Taurus. It's a sign that suits the moon, because it is focused on emotional contentment, and the moon is about reaching emotional contentment, and one could argue on a certain level, therefore also peace of mind. So the planet, really a satellite, but the planet that is associated with emotional contentment and driving towards peace of mind is conjunct Uranus, the planet of epiphany and liberation. So the question with this full moon becomes, what is it that comes about during this time that is a breakthrough for you? And I'm using a Uranian term, breakthrough, is a breakthrough for you towards more authentic, liberating expression, moving towards peace of mind. Uranus is a planet of rebellion. It is a planet of understanding what constraints you may be under, or how you're moving along a certain path, and what is needed to expand your understanding, your intuitive sense, but expand your understanding, having an epiphany. Uranus and Neptune are intensely spiritual planets, and these are the two planets that I really associate with what we call spirit or God energy. With Jupiter and Saturn, the spirit or God energy works with us to manifest and to affect physical things in our daily lives: jobs, resumes, interviews, opportunities, relationships with loved ones, responsibilities, illnesses, life, the way we feel them physically. With Uranus and with Neptune, you feel this God energy in a godlike way. With Uranus, liberation, rebellion, expansion, solution. And with Neptune, the energy becomes really spiritual and mystical, artistic muses, spirituality, a certain kind of loss, because there's a recognition that the physical is not real. So with Uranus and Neptune, the energies, we receive the energies. We have less control over the energies. And with Uranus, the epiphanies that we get, the lightning bolts that we get, the clarity that we get, the breakthrough that we get, allows us to be more ourselves and provides us a dynamic quantum leap solution that can liberate us from a set of problems or something that we're dealing with right now. Because Mercury at present is almost stationary, it goes direct on Monday, so it's very, very slow, and it was going to be stationary on Monday, retrograde, stationary, direct. And because Mercury is squaring Saturn, the planet of responsibility, it's possible that some of this breakthrough occurs through means of communication. But the trickiness with any communication that occurs right now is that it is going to be tested by a sense of responsibility. So it becomes important to be true, authentic. If anything, it becomes important not to sign contracts, and where you can help it, although it's very difficult with Mercury in this energy, to not be in communication. Just know that if you are not counting to 10 and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, there's a need to be responsible in terms of communication, but at the same time, it could be that one of the breakthroughs, or the ways you have these breakthroughs, are this so-called lightning bolt, that somehow provides you with the ability to liberate yourself or break through from a set of kind of restrictive patterns around the time of this full moon. Could be through communication. You get frustrated, or you've had it, and you text something, or you write something, or you communicate something. There's something happens from a communication perspective. Just know that this communication, till the middle of November, but especially till about November the 6th, all of next week, is going to be really tested by this planet of responsibility. And this will affect the election in a very curious way, because not only is Mercury squaring Saturn now, once Mercury goes direct, it's going to square Saturn again on November the 6th. Venus, the planet that rules this full moon, is in the sign of Libra, her own sign. So for once with these videos, we have a clear ruler. Venus, the feminine planet of universal and divine flow, opportunities, blessings, solutions, luck, finances, relationships. The connection between finances and relationships is in a sign of partnership, tested by an opposition to Chiron. So self-defeating behaviors, patterns, vulnerabilities, a sense of woundedness, the planet of relationships and relationship flow somewhere comes up against, somewhere has to reckon with during this full moon, somewhere has to reckon with what we want to heal and what we want to liberate ourselves from. And as a result of which, this becomes a full moon of liberation. Hasty, perhaps, not entirely considered, a little bit rebellious, but it might offer you a solution, it might offer you a breakthrough that all of a sudden brings you closer to yourself, makes you true to yourself, and liberates you from a certain set of energies that has been problematic or been constricting you, or offers you some sort of a solution. That's what I mean by October surprise. It's not the October surprise of the FBI calling Hillary Clinton's emails into question 1 month before the last election and therefore throwing it in October. I don't know if we're going to have an October surprise over the next 2 or 3 days. Someone may throw something in about, the Biden laptop, or someone may throw something in about Donald Trump, or we may have some sort of a Uranian epiphany. The full moon's impact has really been strongest over the last 48 hours, and in another 12 hours, the full moon is going to be done. 14 hours, 16 hours, something like that. So certainly by the end of October the 31st Pacific time, we're done with the full moon. Now, sometimes with the full moon, we'll feel the impact 24, 48 hours later, but it's really more a question of what comes into culmination that we continue to deal with over the next 2 weeks. This full moon, the following new moon in Scorpio, and then the Gemini eclipse, all three of them are surprisingly positive. And if they're not overwhelmingly positive, they at least start to nudge us in the direction of opportunity. As we head past the middle of November, the energy clears even more. Till the middle of November, guys, at least November 15th, if not November 20th, the energy is still very challenged, very relationship challenged. We're not done with the crazies. Even Mercury goes direct on the 3rd of November, Mars goes direct on the 13th of November. And then Venus squares Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, the planet of relationships, ends up squaring and wrangling with. And on November the 9th, Venus opposes Mars. Between November the 10th and 15th, I think, pretty much it squares Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. So this particular full moon, the third conjunction that is important right now is Jupiter conjunct Pluto, which I've discussed numerous times. Just to remind you, Jupiter conjunct Pluto is certainly an indicator of the increase in COVID, and and has been putting pressure to create a new beginning or create a transformation in many respects. And we're seeing that play out in social and political spheres as well. So the full moon lights up the sky. It reveals things. It brings things to a head. It creates an emotional and energetic. It's like, as I've mentioned, described this so many times before, it's like a pot of milk that comes to a boil and may spill over. Even if some of the communication is irrational, irresponsible, not completely thought through, even if some of the cognition, this is not the time to decide on what you're thinking or communicating or processing, because it's better to remain in the processing space and not the decisive space. Mercury is very slow moving towards being stationary on Monday, then it goes direct. At least give it till Wednesday or Thursday of next week before you're in a place where you feel like, okay, I can sign that contract. Now I'm clear. Now I'm decided, etc., etc. Right now, things that are going to be coming up are going to be confusing. They're going to be miscommunication. They're going to be crossed wires. Things are not going to make sense. Everything is going to seem a little bit murky. At the same time, you may feel pushed with the full moon conjunct Uranus to take some sort of step that might be small on the one hand, but might have a kind of a liberating repercussion where it frees you from a set of problems or a pattern that has been affecting you for a while. And because this full moon is ruled by Venus, who's opposing Chiron, again, the pressure may be on relationships or finances. And this could be relationships and finances where things are held with others. The theme of codependency versus independence is prominent during this full moon. And somewhere with Venus opposing Chiron, it could be that this epiphany or this growth or this quantum leap or this rebellious individualistic breakthrough, this October surprise, this lightning bolt, all Uranian terms, is occurring in a way that creates a bit of a solution for some sort of relationship pattern in your life that needs to be healed, that is a source of almost permanent wounding. So is it a place where you hold yourself too low? You know, when Chiron is involved, it's often something that is self-defeating. It's often that something that where we don't have a sense of confidence, or we don't have a sense of belief in ourselves, or where we're easily subjugated, you know, where we're wounded, often in childhood. So Venus's opposition there calls into question, how can you be successful in relationships if you're still carrying this wound? And then this full moon with Uranus might give you a sudden epiphany, sudden burst, a sudden activity, a sudden communication that you send out that starts to create a sense of freedom from this. It's only the first step, and it could very well be that there's something about this communication that is a little hasty and a little rebellious and not completely thought through. The responsibility, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is with these kinds of because of Mercury square Saturn right now. The Mercury square Saturn energy dissipates after the end of next week, but it's there, and it's important and it's relevant because with this Mercury retrograde, Mercury has squared Saturn 3 times over the past 3 weeks, so you can't ignore it. So it could be that, yes, there's a sense of rebelliousness and epiphany and freedom, but it could also be that there's something a little bit mercurial and not well considered about it. And just be patient as the week progresses and as Mercury goes direct on Monday and as we get to Wednesday, Thursday, and it starts to move forward. Things may start to make a little bit more sense, only to find that relationship issues are challenged again as you head towards November 8th, November 9th, and then November 10th to 15th. Once we're done with all of that, and once we get past November 15th, November 16th, November 17th, November 20th, it's forward movement. It's all systems go. You know, this kind of energy we've had of feeling like we're somehow held or in stagnation just opens up as we head towards November 20th and beyond. And we're going to need that. And it makes sense with this election. You know, the fact that Mercury is stationary on November the 3rd really makes you wonder about what's going to happen on November the 3rd and whether it is going to be accepted or contested, or whether there's going to be greater clarity. It may just be that for those states where we're counting ballots, there are a few states that are held in question. It could be that someone challenges something. It could be that something has to make it to the courts. It could be that we will see very shortly. But this is the first of at least 3 lunations. Even the solar eclipse in Sagittarius, you know, I'm delighted to find that I can actually do an astrology video, because the last few have felt so heavy, you know, so I've just felt heavy. It's nice that even though the astrology is not lightening up, at least the lunations are starting to lighten up. So make the most of any solution, that's the word I would use, that comes to you, that liberates you or makes you find a way out, or allows you to break through of any kind of self-limiting relationship or financial pattern that's been defeating you or challenging you or been a source of irritation. You might find that it is a quantum leap. It's like if you've been moving or operating at this level, it puts you at a level above it, so you can see it and you can see the solution, you can know what needs to be done, and you move decisively and clearly towards it. It's not without its drama. Okay, I leave it at this. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to share it. Like it, comment on it. Comments sort of drive viewership. I think likes and comments drive viewership on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever I do new videos. My contact information is in the subject area below or the description box below. You can contact me and inquire about rates for readings. And also, if you want me to make an easy-to-read version of your chart that tells you which sign is in which house and what those houses stand for, you can do that as well. Do not send me your personal information. You will need to know your birth time for that. Do not send me any of that information. Inquire about rates. If you're comfortable with my rates, then you can decide if you want to move forward and send me further information. Okay, I'll leave it at this. And as complicated as the energies still are, if you do find something that has given you a sense of liberation or solution or rebellion, or you felt that you've just kind of kicked the door on something or thrown a bit of a tantrum on something, also find a quiet way to celebrate the solution aspect of it. We're still going to continue to be challenged for the next 3 weeks, so enjoy the fact that this is the first of the lunations that is trying to start to move us forward. Okay? Till next time.